guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm gonna continue our newsreader series where I'm gonna show you how to do JSON parsing. JSON parsing is something that is used mostly every day in mobile applications, so it's very important. I hope you guys enjoy and learn something today. To recap what we did in our last video, we created our table view in our view controller, and we created our custom article cell. In this article cell we have our image and the title and the description we're gonna put, and also the author of that article. Now to make this work, we will need to connect our table view into our view controller. So by doing that, we right click and drag to our view controller, and we connect the data source and the delegate to our view controller. What we're gonna do, we're gonna go and download our JSON with a URL session, and this will populate these articles, and we're gonna save the articles from the JSON into our article object. But first, let's see our table view works fine. In my last video, instead of converting to UITableViewDelegate, I said UITableDelegate. So I'm quickly gonna change this to TableViewDelegate, like this. And right here, in cell for a row at index path, we want to create the article cell. So by giving the correct identifier, we're referencing this article cell, but that's not enough. We also need to cast this as article cell that we created on our last video. So let's go and try that. Let's return cell.title equals this is a test, and to return one number of row so we can test it. Now the title is a label, so I need to say title.text in order to work. Let's go and test this. Hopefully it's gonna work. And we'll see one cell with this is a test. So, and yes, we can see right here, this is a test. What we put in the title, we returned only one cell right here, and the other one is a dummy text that we used. Perfectly. Now that we know that our table view works, what we want to do is we want to go and get the JSON. Now let's open Safari and open newsapi.org. Now I've selected the TechCrunch API, as I said in my previous video, and this is the link that I'm gonna use. We will use the URL session to download the articles from that URL. Here are all the articles, and we also have some other stuff which are sort by, sources, status. So our JSON provides us a dictionary of string, as we can see, to any object, because here we see an array and then string. So by going to our view controller, let's go and write our function. When the view loads, I will call this fetch articles. That this function is gonna fetch all our articles from our JSON and is gonna populate the view. Now let's go and write our function. Function fetch articles. What do we want to do? First of all, we want to create a URL request. So let's go and write this. Let URL request equals a URL request made of a URL, and that is a URL made of string. Now the string right here is this URL right here. So we copy this and we paste it as a string. And I need to unwrap this. Now that we have a URL request, this is needed to load the task. So we're gonna create a task that's gonna be a URL session with a data task that's gonna go and download everything on this URL. So let's go and create our task. Let task equals URL session dot shared dot data task with URL request. And the URL request, we already have URL request. Oops, that's wrong. URL. We created it up there. And this is going to give us three things. When this is executed, it's going to give us the data, a response, that everything went okay, and an error. Now, the data is the JSON, a response is going to be that everything went okay, and an error is if anything happens, it's going to give us an error. And this is going to be in the code below. So, in our completion block right here, we want to first check if there's an error. So let's say if error not equal nil, so we know that there is an error actually, we want to print the error to our console, and then we want to return. We want to return because if there's an error, we don't want to continue our completion block, we want to jump out of this function. Now, if there's no error, we are not returning, so we are continuing to the next part of our completion block, which is gonna be the JSON serialization. Now, the JSON serialization needs to be inserted in a do try catch block. So to do that, we just simply create a do like this, and here we say catch let error and then print error. And right here we will say let JSON, we want to download the JSON, equals try JSON serialization dot JSON object. We want with data and options. And the data we already received from here, so we're gonna say data and we have to unwrap it. And the options, we want mutable containers. Now, as I said before, the JSON right here gives us a dictionary of articles to any object. So we have to explicitly cast it like this. So saying as string to any object. Any object. Now this will give us a JSON in a format of dictionary to string to any object. That's what we want. So by running this, our JSON is gonna be this thing here. All this. Continue back until down. Now, from this JSON, we don't care about those stuff, the status, source, and sort by. What we care about is articles. So we want to go and get the articles. What is articles? Articles is an array of dictionary. So we see an array of dictionary because we see author and a value, the key and a value. So we will have to get only the articles from there and cast it as an array of a dictionary. And to do that, we have to say let, I will call these articles from JSON equals the JSON that we received, square brackets, articles. Now, that's how you receive the value from a dictionary. Since this is a dictionary, we want to only the value, the key of articles. And we want this to cast it as, if it's possible, array of a dictionary. So the array of a dictionary is written like this. And we want the dictionary to be string to any object again. And now we have an array of a dictionary. Very simple. But I want to put an if statement in this one, because if this is possible. If there's an article, then do that. And if we pass through this, that means that articles from JSON is only this field right here, all that stuff, and down until here. So we are removing the sort by sources and status. And now that we have all the articles, what we want to do is simply go through each article and extract all the information that we need. So to do that, we will use a for loop, of course. So for article in JSON actually, let me rename this. Article from JSON in articles from JSON. So for every article from JSON in that array right here, we want to do something. And that thing is going to be to extract all the values that we need for that article. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create in one if statement that all 5 values that I'm going to need. I'm not going to take the publish stat. So I'm going to extract all the 5 values at once. So if any of those values that I'm extracting is nil, my object article is not going to be saved. So to do that, I'm going to say if let title equals, I'm going to copy article from JSON, square brackets title, like this, and I want to cast this as a string if it's possible. And then I'm going to say comma let author equals article from JSON square brackets author as string as well. You have to cast it, otherwise you don't know, Swift doesn't know what value is this. So since you know you want it as a string, you have to cast it. So we continue, comma let description, I'm gonna call desk equals article from JSON square brackets description, comma what else do we need? Let me see. We have the description, author, title. Oh, we need URL and URL to image. We're still gonna save those as strings. So let URL equals article from JSON square brackets URL as string. And lastly, we need let image to URL equals article from JSON square brackets image to URL, like this, and as string. Now that I know that all those values exist, I'm gonna open brackets and I want to continue. Now I get an error. No, Swift is playing with me. I need to print error here. Okay. Now that I know that all those values exist, I want to go and populate my article object. So let's go and fix this very quick. We need to create an array that's gonna contain all our articles. So I'm gonna call this var articles, which is an array like this of article, and it's empty right now. Alright, and I'm gonna put it as an optional because I don't know if it's gonna exist. We might get an error, we might not receive any articles, so we don't know if this is gonna exist. And right here, before my do statement, I will need to create my empty articles array. Self.articles equal article, and that's my empty articles array because I've passed the error, so I can create my object right here. And in this method here, after my for loop, I want to create my article object that I'm gonna save into my articles array. So let article equals an article, like this. So in this article, now that I have all the values necessary to populate the object, I'll use article dot author equals author, article dot description equals description. Now this author and this description we get from right here, this JSON from the JSON. Don't get confused, guys. Is there any problem here? No. Okay. I don't get my completion handled. So I was thinking there was a problem, but it seems everything is fine. So let's continue. Article dot title. Actually, I called it headline equals the title. Article dot URL equals the URL, and lastly article dot image URL equals image to URL. Or is it URL to image? Let me see. Oh, sorry guys, it's URL to image. So I'm gonna quickly go and change this URL to image and URL to image, URL to image. Okay, let's see what's the problem right here. Insert as string. Apparently right here I didn't cast my description as string. Okay, so this is gonna fix the problem easily. Now I created my article object and everything is fine. So after this is done, I can go and put it into my articles array. So since this is done and I created it outside of this loop, outside of this if statement, sorry, we're going to say self.articles, our array.append, to put a new element. And the new element we're gonna put is our article. Perfectly. Now, every time we are getting our JSON, we're populating our articles if everything goes right. Now, what we want to do, we want to go and populate our table view with those articles right here that we received. So let's go and create this. So for every article, we want to put one cell. So to do that, we need to insert right here in number of rows in section, we want to return self.articles.count. But don't forget that if there is an error in our JSON, our articles.count, it will be null, which means our app is gonna crash. So by making this command right here, double question mark 0, what this does is like a one-line if statement. So it says, if this is not nil, use this value. So, but however, if this does not exist, this is nil, use the other value. That's a very useful one-line if statement. It's used a lot, so it's good to start using it too. Now that we have all the articles in our table view, we want for each one of them go and say rcell.title.text to be equal to our unique article cell article title text. So to do that, we say self.articles. We need to access our array of articles, and we want to access the specific article, which is indexPath.item. And for that article in this index path, we want to get the headline. Very simple. And here I need to put a question mark to see if this is gonna happen. And we want to do the same for the description. .text equals, I'm just gonna copy and paste this thing to make my life easier. .description cell.author.text equals copy paste author. And what was the last thing that we Oh, it's the image. Now the image, I'm not gonna say yet. I'm gonna leave it for last thing on the video. Now that we created our cell, one last thing we want to do is we want to reload our table view. We want to reload the data of the table view. And to do that, we have to do it in our function fetch articles. However, we want, after our for loop is finished, not our for loop, after right here, before our catchlet, we want to reload our table view. So we're gonna say the table view, actually self.tableview.reload data. But the problem is this URL session is running in the background. So by reloading the table view is gonna be very slow. We might not even see it happening because this is in the background. So what we want to dispatch a main queue that goes to the main thread and fires this command in the main thread so we can see immediate action. So let's do this by dispatching queue, dispatch queue dot main. We want to dispatch the main queue and we want to dispatch a sync. And I'm gonna copy this code to the block right here. Okay, and one last thing, after our session is created, after the block of our URL session task, we want to say task.resume. That is gonna fire our URL session. And we call the view.load here. So let's go and see if this is gonna work. Hopefully everything will go fine. Amazing! It worked. As you can see, we received and populated all the articles from the JSON. As you can see here, everything, the title, the description, and the author, everything is fine. Perfect. Now that this is done, we want one more thing. We want the image. Now the image, since it's not in our project and we have to download it from a URL, that means that we need to make another URL session. Now it will be a bit of pain to write this URL session every time you want to download this image. So very simply, I'm gonna make an extension of image view that's gonna have a function that's gonna set the image based on a URL that you're gonna pass to it. And very simply, I'm gonna show you this, how to do it. I'm gonna put at the bottom of my class, I'm gonna make a bit of space. At the very bottom, I'm gonna say extension of UI image view and open brackets. Now we want to write a function called, let's call it download image. And this image is gonna have a label from URL, and the URL is gonna be a string. Oops, sorry, wrong bracket. Okay. Now, by calling the image view dot download image, it's gonna execute the code that we're gonna write in this completion, in this block right here. So we are taking the URL that's gonna be passed, and what we want, since we have that string, we want to, again, like we did before in the fetch articles, we want to create a URL request and then create our URL session with data task with URL request. It's very simple. Let's say let URL request equals URL request out of URL, and the URL is URL of string, string like this, and the string is the URL here. So I say URL, and I need to explicitly unwrap this. I have the URL request right now, so let's go and create our task. So let task equals a URL session again data task with URL request. And the URL request we already created is called URL request. And again, data task with URL request gives us three things: the data, in this case is the image, a response, how everything went, and an error if there is one. And sorry, one line, we need to say in the code we're gonna write. Now again, we need to check if there's an error. If error not equal nil, and we want to print the error, very simple. And then if there is an error, we want to return. We don't want to continue to our URL session, because there's an error, everything is gonna crash after that. So by returning, we are avoiding crashes. And let's go and see what do we need. Now, as I said before, URL session is running a back thread, so we need to dispatch a main queue again to change our image in the main thread to see it instantly. So let's go and dispatch a queue .main.async, and what simply we want to do is self.image. That self.image is the image of the image view. Since we are making an extension, self.image takes place of the image view, and that is gonna be equal of a UI image created out of data. And the data we already have from the URL session. I'm gonna write just data and explicit and wrap it, since we passed through the error and we know that this is gonna exist. Very simple. All right, I'm gonna need to close my URL task right here. And since I close my URL task, don't forget task.resume, so your task is fired. So this bunch of code is fired. You need task.resume. Perfectly. So going back to our self-for-robot index path, now we can say cell.imageView that we created, and since this is an image view and we created a new function, we're gonna say download image from string, and that string is very simple. I don't know. Oops, sorry, wrong. I need to copy this again. Self.articles at indexpath.item for this article, and we simply want the image URL. Simple like this. I need to unwrap this, that I know that it exists. Was it this one? Actually, it was that one, so I don't need this one right here. So let's run our code and see. What's the error? Okay, I think I need both. Yeah, now it runs, and let's see if our image is gonna be there. And yeah, here we go. Our articles now have images. Perfect. Now, as you can see, if you scroll very fast, sometimes you will see the wrong image appearing into the wrong place, like you see this one. It should be here. Yeah, that's very simple. We need to cache our images. I'm gonna show you in another video how to do that, but for now everything works perfect, and that's it. In the next video, I'm gonna show you guys how to put a segment right here that's gonna go from top to latest articles of this source that you found. I'm gonna put a menu right here, so you're gonna click a menu, and a slide in menu is gonna appear with as many resources as you want. That you can have like a TechCrunch like I have. I'm gonna use TechRadar. You can use Google News. You can use many resources and change with them with that menu. And also we're gonna open the articles in a web view. That's gonna be in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you guys for watching. If you liked, don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe for more series like this. See you in the next video.